They disappeared. Weeks, maybe months of silence. And just when you started to find your balance again, your phone lights up with their name. Your heart skips a beat. Is this it? Have they finally realized what they lost? Before you answer, stop. This is the moment where most people make the mistake that pulls them right back into the pain they worked so hard to escape. A message is not a miracle. It's not proof they've changed or that they're ready to give you the love you deserve. Sometimes it's just curiosity, boredom, or loneliness disguised as effort. That's why you can't rush to respond. When you react instantly, you're not thinking clearly. You're acting out of hope, not power. And if you're not careful, you'll fall straight back into old patterns, over-investing in someone who hasn't earned their way back into your life. This is the moment to question their intentions, not your worth. To ask yourself, why now? Are they here to rebuild or just check if the door's still open? Because attention isn't affection, and the strongest thing you can do might be to pause, protect your peace, and remember, you get to decide if they deserve access to you again. When your ex finally reaches out after a long silence, it's almost impossible not to feel something stir inside you. That name popping up on your phone can feel like electricity running through your body, a rush of emotions all at once. You might feel excited, nervous, maybe even a little validated. After all, for weeks or months, you've been left wondering if they even thought about you, and now here they are, breaking the silence. That tiny message feels like it carries so much weight, like maybe it's the sign you've been waiting for. But this is where you need to stop yourself. Take a breath and remember something important. A message is not a miracle. It's not proof that they've changed. It's not a promise of anything meaningful. It's just a message. That's it. When you've been craving closure or holding on to hope, your mind has this habit of filling in the blanks. It starts telling you stories about why they reached out. Maybe they finally realized what they lost. Maybe they couldn't stop thinking about you. Maybe they're trying to fix things. And in those moments, your heart wants to believe those stories because they feel comforting, even romantic. But the danger here is that you take a single act, a text, a call, a DM, and let it mean more than it actually does. You attach your healing, your worth, your sense of peace to a few words on a screen. That's the mistake that pulls so many people back into a cycle of confusion and heartbreak. The truth is, people reach out for all kinds of reasons that have nothing to do with real love or commitment. Sometimes it's boredom, sometimes it's loneliness. Sometimes they're feeling nostalgic and want to check if you're still there, still available, still willing to give them a piece of your time. Or maybe they're just trying to soothe their own guilt because disappearing without explanation weighs on them. And a simple, "Hey, how are you?" makes them feel like a better person. That message isn't necessarily about you. It's often about them and what they need in that moment. And if you're not careful, you'll misinterpret their curiosity as care, their guilt as growth, and their boredom as a breakthrough. This is why you have to approach their message with clarity instead of emotion. Ask yourself, if this person really valued you, why did it take them this long to reach out? Why didn't they show up consistently before? What has actually changed since they left? Don't let your heart leap ahead to a future reunion when their actions haven't earned that kind of hope. It's easy to think, but what if this is my chance to fix things? What if they finally get it now? But if someone truly wants to be part of your life again, they won't leave you guessing with vague messages. They won't just test the waters with a casual text. They'll make it clear with effort, with consistency, and with real conversations about what went wrong and how to make it right. So in that moment, when your phone lights up and your emotions take over, remind yourself of all the progress you've made in their absence. Think about the nights you spent crying and how you slowly learned to stand on your own again. Think about how hard it was to get here, to a place where you weren't waiting on their words anymore. Don't let one small message undo all that healing. You don't owe them an immediate response, or any response at all. This isn't about being cold or playing games. It's about protecting the space you've created for yourself and making sure you don't get pulled back into a situation that already showed you what it was. Because here's the thing, you deserve more than breadcrumbs. You deserve more than a half-hearted reach out from someone who didn't value you enough to stay consistent in the first place. You deserve someone who knows your worth, not someone who only remembers it when they're lonely or when life gets quiet for them. So when your ex reaches out after silence, don't let your heart get ahead of reality. A message is not a miracle, it's just a message. And sometimes the strongest thing you can do is keep moving forward without looking back. The moment your phone lights up with their name, it's like your whole body goes on high alert. Your heart races, your stomach tightens, and for a split second, the world shrinks down to that one little notification. It's almost as if time freezes and you forget everything else you were doing because now there's only one thought running through your mind. They're reaching out, ... After all this time, after all the silence, they're breaking it. And without realizing it, your thumb is already hovering over the screen, ready to type back something, anything, to let them know you're still there, still receptive, still willing to engage. But this is the exact moment where most people make the biggest mistake. They let urgency override clarity. See, there's this false belief that if we don't reply right away, we'll lose the opportunity. It's like we imagine they're sitting on the other side, stopwatch in hand, measuring our interest based on how quickly we respond. But that's not how this works. The truth is, if someone genuinely wants to reconnect in a meaningful way, they're not going to disappear just because you didn't fire off a reply within 30 seconds. But if they're only reaching out to soothe their own loneliness, to get a quick hit of validation, or to feel like they still have access to you, then your immediate response just hands them that comfort on a silver platter. And once they have it, they don't need to follow through with anything deeper. This is where you have to pause and ask yourself, what's actually happening here? Are you responding because you've thought it through and you're clear about what you want? Or are you reacting because you feel an overwhelming need to keep their attention? That difference is everything. When you rush to reply, you're not operating from your strongest self. You're operating from a place of fear. The fear of losing them again. The fear of missing your chance. The fear that if you don't act now, they'll move on. But here's the thing. If their interest in you is so fragile that it depends on a rapid reply, it's not real interest. And it's convenience. Think about the dynamic that was there before the silence. Were you the one constantly overextending, always available, waiting on their texts, craving their validation? If so, this is the moment to break that pattern. You don't have to play games, but you do have to slow down. You owe it to yourself to step back and evaluate whether engaging with them is even in your best interest. Because let's be honest, when they disappeared or fell silent before, it left you with questions, pain, and probably a lot of self-doubt. And now that they've decided to reappear, what exactly has changed? Have they shown through consistent actions that they're willing to rebuild trust? Or are they just dropping breadcrumbs because they're bored on a Tuesday night? The strongest thing you can do when you're caught in that emotional high of they reached out is to take a breath, Don't answer from the part of you that's starved for their attention. Answer from the part of you that's been doing the work, healing, and growing since the silence began. That part of you knows your value. That part of you doesn't see this message as the universe giving you another shot at happiness. It sees it as information, something to observe, to consider, but not to lose yourself over. It's not about punishing them with silence or playing hard to get. It's about protecting your emotional space long enough to decide what you actually want. Because when you reply from a place of urgency, you're letting them set the terms. You're giving them the power to dictate the pace of this interaction. But when you pause, you regain control. You make it clear, to yourself most importantly, that their reappearance doesn't automatically earn them the right to your energy, your time, or your heart. This is about self-respect. You've made it through the silence once before. You know what it feels like to sit with the pain and come out stronger. Don't let a single text undo that strength. You're not here to be someone's temporary distraction or emotional safety net. If they want access to you again, they need to show up in a way that matches your standards, not your insecurities. So before you type back, ask yourself one question. Am I responding because I'm clear on what I deserve, or because I'm afraid of losing what I never really had? The difference between those two answers will decide whether this is the moment you reclaim your power or give it away all over again. When your ex suddenly reaches out after a long period of silence, it's so easy to get swept up in a wave of emotion. You feel the adrenaline rush, your heart starts beating faster, and for a moment, it feels like the door to something familiar has just swung open. But here's the thing. The danger doesn't lie in the fact that they reached out. It lies in how quickly we slip back into old patterns without even realizing it. Those patterns, the ones you thought you'd broken free from, are waiting quietly to pull you right back into the very place you've been working so hard to escape. Think about how much energy it took to get here, to reach a point where their absence didn't dominate your every thought, where you could go through your day without wondering if they were going to text, where you finally started to feel like yourself again. And yet, the second they send a casual, "Hey," or "been thinking about you," all of that progress can feel like it's hanging by a thread. This is because our brains are wired for familiarity. We crave what feels comfortable, even when it wasn't good for us. So, when they reach out, it's not just a text, it's an invitation to step back into a dynamic that your heart knows all too well. What happens next often determines everything. If you don't pause and see it for what it is, you might find yourself responding with the same energy you used to give them. What use? You stop joking the way you used to, sending long messages late at night, maybe even letting your guard down in ways that feel too intimate for someone who hasn't yet earned back that level of access to you. And before you know it, you're acting like nothing ever happened, as if the silence, the pain, and the lessons you learned during their absence didn't even exist. But here's what you have to understand. Just because the communication has resumed doesn't mean the relationship has evolved. If neither of you has done the deep work to heal the issues that caused the fracture in the first place, all you're doing is walking back into the same room with the same broken furniture and hoping it feels different this time. It won't. If they haven't shown you through consistent actions that they're ready to rebuild, not just revisit, the dynamic will stay exactly where you left it. It's tempting to tell yourself, this time will be different. This time will be different. This time will be easier to deal with. And this time will be easier to deal with. And this time will be far from predictable It will be maybe they've changed. Maybe they finally see your worth. Maybe this is their way of easing back in because they're nervous too. But let's be honest. How many times have you told yourself that before? Hope is beautiful, but it can also be blinding if you don't pair it with clarity. And clarity comes from stepping back and asking, am I about to walk into a new chapter, or am I about to reread the same painful story? You owe it to yourself to hold the line this time. Instead of slipping into those late-night conversations that leave you wondering where you stand, ask the harder questions. What do they actually want? Are they reaching out to reconcile or just to soothe their loneliness? Are they showing up with the consistency and effort that a second chance requires? Or are they giving you crumbs of attention and watching you turn them into a feast? It's not easy, I know. When someone has held a place in your heart, the pull towards them can feel almost magnetic. Or holding grudges. It's about protecting your peace and honoring the progress you've made. You've come too far to throw yourself back into a dynamic that hasn't shown you it's ready to give you the love, effort, and respect you deserve. So, the next time your ex reaches out, don't default to the old patterns that kept you small. Don't hand over your energy so freely. Pause, reflect. Decide from strength, not from habit. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do isn't to engage. It's to recognize the door they're knocking on leads back to a place you've outgrown, and then choose to keep walking forward. When your ex reaches out after a long silence, your mind can spiral into 1,000 different directions. You replay every detail of the past relationship, every word they said, and suddenly you find yourself wondering if this is the moment everything changes. But here's what you have to understand. Just because they've reached out doesn't mean their intentions align with what you truly deserve. You can't take their words at face value, no matter how much you want to believe them. No matter how much you want to believe them, how much they want to believe you. No matter how much you want to believe them. Instead, you need to take a step back and ask yourself one critical question. Why now? Why are they choosing this moment to reconnect? People don't always reach out because they miss you in the way you hope. Sometimes they reach out because they're lonely, because something reminded them of you, or because they're seeking validation that they still have access to your heart. It doesn't necessarily mean they're ready to step up, to be consistent, or to offer the kind of love you've been craving. It's hard to accept, but reaching out is easy. Change is hard. And if they haven't done the hard work to become someone capable of meeting your needs, then this message is just that, a message, nothing more. This is where most people get caught. They take that one text, that one, "I've been thinking about you," and they create an entire story around it. Suddenly, all the pain and silence from before is replaced with hope. Hope that maybe this is the turning point, the moment they finally realize your worth. But here's the danger. If you don't question their intentions, you risk walking straight back into the same heartbreak you worked so hard to heal from. You deserve more than breadcrumbs. You deserve someone who's not just thinking about you, but actively showing up for you. It's flattering when someone from your past reaches out. It feels like validation. But validation is not love. Validation is temporary. It's someone reminding you that they still know how to get your attention. Love, on the other hand, requires consistency, effort, and a willingness to grow together. So before you allow their message to pull you back in, pause and observe. Are they reaching out to take responsibility for the way things ended? Are they showing you, through actions, not words, that they want to rebuild trust? Or are they simply trying to soothe their own ego? You need to be honest with yourself here. If you don't ask the hard questions, you'll fall into the same emotional trap as before. You'll find yourself analyzing every word, waiting for their next text, and wondering if this time will be different. But if they haven't done anything to earn a second chance, what you're really doing is handing them your heart again without asking if they're capable of protecting it. That's not love, that's self-abandonment. When someone reaches out, it's easy to assume it's because they want you back in their life. But sometimes people want the comfort of connection without the responsibility of commitment. They want the familiarity of you without the effort required to keep you. You have to be stronger than the pull of nostalgia. You have to remember why things ended in the first place and whether anything has truly changed since then. Because if nothing has changed, neither will the outcome. This is your moment to protect your progress, to remind yourself of the work you've done, to heal, to grow, to rediscover your own worth. Don't let one text undo months of strength. Don't let it drag you back into a cycle of overthinking, overgiving, and overextending yourself for someone who still hasn't earned the privilege of your presence. Your heart is not a revolving door for people who couldn't stay the first time. If you choose to engage, do it from a place of clarity, not emotion. Make them prove through their actions that they deserve even a fraction of your energy. And if they can't do that, then the bravest thing you can do is let them stay in the past where they belong. Because the truth is, if someone genuinely wants you in their life, they won't just reach out, they'll show up consistently, fully, without making you question their intentions. Until that happens, don't confuse their curiosity for commitment. Don't confuse their attention for affection. And most importantly, don't confuse their timing for your destiny. The message is not. The moment your story begins again, it's the moment you decide whether to repeat the past or protect your future. Choose wisely. When your ex reaches out after being silent, it can feel like a floodgate opens. You see their name pop up, and suddenly a dozen emotions hit you at once. Confusion, hope, maybe even a little rush of excitement. For a moment, it feels like all the time that's passed hasn't mattered, like you're right back where you left off. But here's the thing, just because they're reaching out doesn't mean they get to walk back into your life like nothing happened. You don't owe them that. You get to decide whether or not they deserve access to you again. And that's the part most people overlook in these moments. It's so easy to let nostalgia and emotion override your better judgment. You might think, well, they're texting me now. Maybe they've realized they made a mistake. Maybe this is their way of trying again. But pause for a second. Why now? Why not a week ago? Why not when you were still raw, still aching for their attention? People don't always come back because they want to build something meaningful. Sometimes they come back because they're lonely, because someone else didn't work out, because they were lonely, because someone else didn't work out, or because they want the comfort of knowing you're still there, waiting. And this is where boundaries become critical. When they reach out, you don't have to swing the door open wide and say, "Come in." You don't have to play the role of the understanding, forgiving person who makes it easy for them. Too often, we hand back our power the moment we hear from someone we've missed. But your time, your energy, your emotional space, they're valuable. And they're valuable. They're not something you give out to anyone who suddenly decides to show up. You have to stop and ask yourself, has anything really changed? Or are they the same person bringing you the same inconsistency they left you with before? If you don't set the tone for how this plays out, they will. And you'll end up being pulled along in their rhythm instead of standing in your own. Maybe you're thinking, but if I push them away, What if I lose my chance? That fear is natural, but let's flip it. What if letting them in too easily means you lose your chance to protect yourself, to demand the kind of effort and respect you deserve? The truth is, if they're serious about reconnecting, they'll show you in their actions. They'll respect your space. They'll be consistent. They'll put in the effort to prove they're worthy of another chance. But if they're not serious, you'll know that too, if you're paying attention. So, what are they waiting for? If you're paying attention, a quick hey at midnight isn't a grand gesture. A few days of texting and then silence again isn't progress. Don't let small crumbs of attention convince you that a full meal is coming. You deserve more than that. You deserve someone who doesn't just want access to you, but someone who values it enough to earn it. So if they reach out, take your time. You don't have to respond right away. You don't have to respond at all. And if you do, you get to decide what this looks like. You set the boundaries. You decide how much of yourself you're willing to give. Don't let guilt or nostalgia make you believe that just because they want back in, you have to say yes. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do for yourself is recognize that the door they're knocking on is no longer open, and you're better off keeping it that way. Because the truth is, not everyone deserves access to you twice. When your ex reaches out after a long period of silence, it can stir up a storm inside you. Suddenly, all the emotions you thought you had buried start bubbling up again. That text or call feels like an invitation, like a spark of hope, that maybe, just maybe, they've realized what they lost. It's so easy to mistake that small gesture for something bigger than it really is. But here's where so many people make the mistake that pulls them right back into the same pain they worked so hard to move past. Attention isn't affection. Just because someone reaches out doesn't mean they care in the way you want them to. It doesn't mean they're ready to give you the love you deserve or the commitment you need. It might just mean they're bored, lonely, or curious. Maybe they're trying to soothe their own guilt or check if you're still there as a safety net. We react to our responses by quickly replying or warning them, but we might just mean they're bored, lonely, or curious. Maybe they're trying to soothe their own guilt or check if you're still there as a safety net. And if you don't pause to see this clearly, you could find yourself sucked back into a dynamic that left you drained the first time. Think about how much effort you've made to heal. All the nights you spent talking yourself out of texting them. All the growth you've experienced since they left. Are you really going to let one notification on your phone undo all of that? That's the danger of confusing their sudden attention with real connection. One feels good for a moment. The other requires consistency, effort, and growth over time. Ask yourself this: what's changed? Has anything about them changed since the day they walked away or fell silent? Have they shown you, in actions, not words, that they're capable of showing up differently now? Or are they still the same person, offering the same breadcrumbs, hoping you'll give them access to your heart without earning it? It's seductive to believe that someone's message means they've been thinking about you non-stop, that they've had an epiphany and now want to fix everything. But often, people don't reach out because they've changed. They reach out because they're seeking comfort, because they miss how you made them feel, or because they can't handle the discomfort of being cut off completely. And if you confuse that for real love, you'll find yourself giving away your energy all over again, only to end up hurt. You deserve more than a half-hearted, "Hey, how have you been?" at midnight. You deserve more than someone who remembers you when they're lonely, drunk, or bored. You deserve someone who shows up intentionally, with clarity and conviction, because they can't imagine their life without you, not someone who shows up casually when it suits them. is also the strongest. To not respond immediately, to not let your emotions run the show, to step back and say, does this person deserve another chance with me? Have they proven through their actions that this isn't just another cycle waiting to repeat? Because if you respond out of fear of losing them forever, you've already lost yourself in the process. The moment you start equating their sporadic attention with love, you've handed over your power. And when you do that, you set yourself up for the same heartbreak you swore you'd never feel again. If their message isn't backed by real change, by real effort to rebuild trust and connection, then the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to let it go unanswered. To remind yourself that not every door that reopens needs to be walked through again. Sometimes the strongest response is no response at all. You're not here to be someone's emotional pit stop while they figure out what they want. You're not here to be someone's backup plan when life feels quiet. You're here for something real, something deep, something that feels safe and consistent. And that can only happen with someone who values you enough to show up fully, not someone who sends you crumbs when it's convenient for them. So when that message comes in, don't make the mistake of thinking their attention equals affection. Take your time, stay grounded in your worth, and remember, if they truly care, their actions will make it clear. You won't have to guess, chase, or question. And sometimes the most powerful move you can make is to keep moving forward without looking back.